Hey there everybody, Joe here. Thanks for watching again. I want to let you know that I have finally made a video series on how to paint clouds on your ceiling. So in this series, I paint my own ceiling and I have the entire process to walk you through. One thing that I didn't put in that video that I'm holding in my hand is this brush. I always love new tools and I like to show them as I discover new techniques and strategies. So I took this brush, 2.5-inch brush, and I chopped up the bristles. So you can see some are very short, and I just did this with scissors, and it took a little bit of time to really get them in there and destroy this very nice brush. Different lengths so that it has this bendy feel to it. You know, if I just cut them all at the same length, then I just have my really bendy part and then the stiff part. But I cut them all at different lengths so it has some good flex to it while I'm working. And I'm going to go to my ceiling right now that is already finished and try my new tool. All right, I'm here in my house and this is the ceiling that I painted, and I'll show you in this video series how I did all of this. But right now I want to try out my cool new tool. And so I tried this same process with an old wig, with stuffed animals, with my dog. No, I didn't really use my dog. I think this is going to work better than all of them to get my little wispy details around the edges of the clouds. But this is how you do it. If you want to add these little details around the edges of your clouds, you get the ceiling wet because it makes your paint flow out a lot smoother. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to fill this brush with water and just... Okay, let's put some right here. All right, so here is the shadow color. This is just the straight shadow color, and you can see I just put the paint on the very, very tip. So I like putting these dark ones in front of the light ones too. A little bit of contrast is good, you know. So you can see in the course of this video when you watch it that it really is me figuring out a lot of things as I go and just sharing my findings in order to get the best results. So I'm walking you through the way I think through the colors as well as the things that I already knew going into it, but it's kind of fun to just be along for the journey. You know, every job is like that. You know, you always find yourself having to solve problems along the way. This is my scooper trowel right here, and I'm going to take a bunch of this. You can see that's loaded up with air bubbles, and so I'm going to put it in my tray and maybe put a couple of those scoops, and this tray is what I'm going to work out of onto the ceiling. I'm going to chop it up. You can stir it like this. You want to get all the air bubbles out. If you don't do this, then when you go to the ceiling and put it on, it's more likely to just kind of roll behind your trowel blade and fall off and make a mess on the floor. And it's no fun to have a bunch of air bubbles in your texture. If I just practice putting the most pressure on my trailing corner, which is that corner, then that's how I apply it first. I can put a huge amount of mud on there without it dripping. Look at this big amount of mud I can do. I can take it like this, I can splat it against the ceiling and then trail with the corner so that it doesn't curl and drip off of the ceiling. Then I'm ready to come back with more of a direct wiping motion. And then as I smear it, I start with the trowel pointed more directly at the ceiling, and I lay the trowel down as I progress across the ceiling. Man, I love clouds. I just want to show you this real quick. I mean, this is essentially what I'm going to be painting on the ceiling. I want that effect. If you just get colors that look similar to these, this system of choosing color is going to work well for you. So I got a blue that you can see when I went up to the color chart on the wall, immediately the brightest blues stick out. I mean, there's this patch in the middle of all those colors that's just the brightest blue. I go straight to that section and I get a blue that looks like it's a little bit on the violet side. Now, you don't have to get one this dark. If that scares you to put that on your ceiling, then just get a lighter one. You still will be able to have the same relationship of colors, even if you use very light, faint colors, faded colors. Your ceiling might have a different a different feel to it, but you can still get it to look natural, like clouds. Mine, I want it to be, you know, bold and bright contrast, so I'm using these bold contrasting colors. So this one will be shadow and transition color. This one will be pure white and transition color. So they both might mix a little bit into the transition color, but you know, with water-based paint, you're able to kind of smear the brush out and get back to the pure white pretty easily if it doesn't have anything real dark in it. So I'll use these two brushes to help me keep them separate. So let's get to the painting. You know, this is where I might try to make a few little detailed, jagged, puffy shapes. And to do that, you just kind of load a little bit more paint than usual on the end of the brush. It's still on this long end of the brush, and I'm turning it so that it doesn't drip off. And so when there's more paint, you can make smaller shapes. The paint is heavier and just sticks right to the ceiling, and you can move it around without the brush skipping. Because, you know, skip marks just look very different than anything else. They don't look as much like clouds. So I feel like if you have more paint on the end of the brush and you don't get the skipping of the brush, it just looks a little bit more like a natural edge. This is the transition color, and I'm going to put that down here. And now, instead of just putting it everywhere, I'm just going to use this little curled shape brush stroke, and I'm just putting dabs everywhere. See how it's just dots? Just dots everywhere. Okay, now that I have these dots everywhere, I'm going to put them as little as I feel like going with the details. You know, you might not feel like getting extremely detailed, but what I'll do is, after I have those, I'll go to each and every one of them and blend the edge that is toward the wall, but not the edge that's going out this way. Watch. So I go like this, and I'm moving quick, so I might miss a few times. This is not something I want to do real accurately. This is just going to help me to get the feel of a cloud that's got puffs that are going out this way. So I went to the thrift store again and found this little wig thing. I don't even know what you call this. I guess I could get online and find out what this is for. It's like a miniature wig, like a little add-on. Maybe just put it under a hat or something. I don't know. But I saw that and I was like, hey, perfect. Something I can put my hand around and keep the hair in place and organized while I manipulate all the little wispy shapes on the edges of the cloud. So I want to just put the paint on first in these clumps that don't look so great, but then use this tool to do what the brush can't do. So I think I've moved from trying to use it as an applying tool to just a manipulating tool, just to manipulate the paint. That's kind of fun. Notice how the longer it sits in the water, the less stringy these get. The water kind of makes them bleed together. So if it looks a little bit too stringy and textured at first, you might give it a minute before you go trying to adjust it too much. You know, it might just look great by the time it dries. It's a total of maybe a day's worth of footage. And so this is meant to cover all of the things that you might run into when you're painting clouds. So the first thing that I do is texture the ceiling to make sure that it's smooth. You may not need to do that, but it's in there. Then I choose the right colors and I get my base layer of blue sky. Then I have to choose my light color and my shadow color for the clouds, and I show you how I do that and how I strategize making the right shapes for the clouds so that they look like believable natural shapes. So there are many techniques that I use along the way, and I would love for you to take a look at that. If you are thinking about painting clouds on your ceiling, you can join right along with me while I paint clouds on my ceiling. Don't forget to ask questions as you progress in your painting. I really want to see you have success with this, so ask me anything. Okay. Thanks for being part of the Cloud Workshop, and I'll see you next time.